This is actually quite terrifying because I've never done it before.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm with MicroPharm. We've never even met, have we?
In person, no.
We met for the first time today, but I have been not stalking, let's not call it stalking. Let's call it pleasantly watching your progress and what you do on social media. And I just wanted to meet you and ask you some questions. Give the viewers an introduction on who you are, what you do.
My name is Yasser. I work as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice and also advanced specialist pharmacist in interstitial lung disease. I created MicroPharm during COVID, and my whole purpose of creating the account was I started a new role as a teacher practitioner at university. It was a split role, so teacher practitioner for 2 days, and for 3 days I was an antimicrobial pharmacist. People don't know enough about microbiology. We generally hate microbiology. I think a lot of healthcare professionals hate microbiology. So I was like, what if I started sharing educational content online that breaks down microbiology and says these are the types of bacteria that can cause a certain infection, this is what you need to know about the bacteria, this is how we treat it. And my whole aim with that was to teach myself.
I mean, agreed. I always think when you film a video, you end up teaching yourself because you have to research it, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And then I was like, I'm going to dedicate half an hour to an hour a day to research a topic and make a post about it. When I start making content like this, in my naive mind, I thought all the junior doctors that don't listen to me when I'm giving them a microbiology advice are all going to follow this page and they're going to say, no, we love microbiology because of this.
Okay, so actually was your page intended for, well, all healthcare professionals, so doctors included, not just pharmacists?
Not just pharmacists,
right, okay.
And I thought, I'm going to make everyone love microbiology, and at the end people are going to think antibiotic stewardship is so important. Yeah, none of that happened.
I was going to say, did that happen or not?
So it was so stupid. I had no face to this account, and I started posting, and then I started requesting to follow all the junior doctors that I know well.
Right, that's actually really smart.
Yeah, none of them followed me back. That's the point. That's why I realized I'm so naive.
So funny.
Because you're assuming people want to learn about this in their spare time. That was probably a bit naive, but people started following the page.
I think that once you gain traction, that is kind of when people hop on.
Yeah.
And I think at the start it's really hard to make some sort of name for yourself. But the one thing that leads me to is, so MicroPharm as a name, I thought, is that from microbiology or is that from micro as in bite-sized bits of revision?
It was supposed to be a combination of microbiology and pharmacy, and that's why I did MicroPharm.
Right, okay.
But then I ran out of microbiology content to talk about. Or I just thought it's not relevant for everyone.
That is true.
Yeah, and a huge part of our profession is in community pharmacy. Although having some knowledge of microbiology is important, not to the extent that you will need to use it.
Absolutely, it's very different actually from what you're going to get in terms of as a community pharmacist on a script in comparison within hospital, right? And you going on micro rounds in hospital is just so different to what you do as a community pharmacist.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So the risk that I had there is if I carried on in that trajectory, I lose the interest of just so many people following me. So that's when I grew more, and that's when people started saying, oh, I love the name MicroPharm. It's like bite-sized pieces of pharmacy. And then I wanted to just change the reason why I called it MicroPharm and say, oh, that's the reason.
That's fair enough. That's pretty smart,
let me be honest.
That's pretty smart.
A brief history, I guess, is I carried on in this trajectory, and then I said, when I'm at the 1,000 follower mark, that's when I'm going to show my face, because none of your friends can make fun of you when you've got 1,000 followers. When you've got 12, it's a different story.
Do you know what? I feel like you are the successful version of me, because I have all of these thoughts, and that is what stops me from doing more stuff, because I'll put my face out there from day one, and then I'll be like, oh no, actually, let me just retract. I'm not going to go any further with this. But then you actually do it.
No, but you still struggle. I still struggle to this day. I've been saying to myself for a year, I'm going to make vlog style videos. And then I think, nah, this is too much, or no one's interested in this.
Well, I think there's a lot of interest in vlogging pharmacy, but this is completely going off topic here. But I personally have, run into issues where you're not supposed to vlog, or the kind of fine line between sharing and oversharing.
Yes.
And have you ever come across those issues yourself?
So I haven't come across these issues myself, and that's because I'm very mindful of it, and maybe if I'm
more mindful.
No, I'm very mindful of it, and at the same time, it's because I'm very conscious that people have a negative perception of social media, and this is a problem. That mindset needs to change. The impact that you can have via social media is huge in the healthcare space.
Absolutely, there's so much potential.
Exactly. Everyone's using social media, but to say, oh, I want to educate people on social media, people have a negative view on that for some reason.
Yeah.
I know people have that mindset, and that's a problem. That's why I want to do more to show you about what I'm doing in my job.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to run into any problems.
Yeah.
Most of the problems that you run into at work, and you can probably shed some light on your experience, most of the problems that you run into are actually not problems. You're actually highlighting the profession, and there's so many people that have turned. In fact, I've actually got a story of this where I was teaching a first year class at the university, and someone approached me and said, I watched your video of why you recommend pharmacy, and I was split between this and another healthcare profession, and I picked pharmacy because of your video.
Exactly. And I think there's so much potential for what pharmacists can do on social media, but for some reason, in comparison to say other professions such as nursing or doctors and physios and things like that, so for some reason I feel like pharmacists have a bigger barrier, and I don't know whether that's because our job itself involves keeping other people in check. I've personally felt like I need to take a step back and out of fear, when actually what I was doing was promoting what we do.
But one thing that's really interesting, because I'll give you some insight on other professions, because I go to a lot of the YouTube health events, particularly the medics that I've come across. There's a lot of medics that are terrified of creating educational content. They don't mind making vlog style content, but they feel like if I make educational content, I'll run into problems with the GMC.
Oh, so that's kind of opposite to us, isn't it?
But it also means that, like across the board, everyone's worried of how our regulators take educational content or any content.
Yes, and that is exactly why I've also personally stayed away from clinical content, because I feel like, oh no, what if I said something incorrect, and then someone comes back and says, you did this and you said this incorrectly.
Yes.
But you have that confidence to do the clinical content.
It's a bit weird. I've never thought of it that much, and then the more I think of it, the more scared I get.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Honestly, like recently, I've been thinking about that, and I'm thinking actually it's way less stressful to do vlogging style content, but I actually struggle with vlogging style content because I'm not used to it.
Right. I feel like we need to combine
switch.
I recently saw online that you've stopped working and gone full time into content creation. What made you do that, and how did you find the confidence to do that, and are you still going to go back to hospital? Like, what's your current situation?
And this is where I need to clarify. I get this question all the time. Did you stop everything full time? So I didn't stop everything full time.
You didn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a very strategic thing. Current role that I'm in, it was maternity cover.
Right.
So it was 3 days a week maternity cover. And at the end of my cover, there was an opportunity for me to do 2 days a week rather than 3 days a week.
So you actually work for 2 days a week. Is that in hospital or is that in GP? Where is that?
So that's in hospital in the interstitial lung disease specialty. So my role in those 2 days is mainly to cover a clinic, to see patients face to face.
Right.
And then manage everything on the home care side of things, which is all the prescriptions that need to be delivered.
So do you still have ward time?
In those 2 days, I don't have ward time.
Interesting. Okay.
The screening of the prescriptions is quite interesting because I actually have to write the prescriptions. So I have to.
Are you a prescriber?
I'm a prescriber. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Goals. Yeah.
So that's so it's literally a prescribing clinic where I start people on the medication and then I follow through making sure they get the deliveries.
I would love to see a vlog on that.
Yeah, I know I should do it.
Here I'm giving video ideas. Upload videos on my own channel.
I really want to do that. I'm
We'll
gonna
work on it. I'll persuade him.
That's 2 days a week. And then I left my role as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice.
To do MicroPharm.
To do MicroPharm.
Yeah.
So there was a few things that I thought. I was like, I've got 2 jobs that take up now 4 days of my week.
Yeah. By 2 jobs, are you talking about your senior lecturer role and your
hospital pharmacy role?
Yeah.
So I was like, it takes 4 days of my week, and it was still not enough to manage the MicroPharm side of things.
Right. So outside of that, you were using every minute to do MicroPharm.
Like we're talking, I get home, I eat dinner, and then from 7 p.m. till about 11 p.m. I'm working on MicroPharm stuff, weekday, and then the day off, that's a full day of MicroPharm stuff, and then the weekends, and I always work on the weekends on MicroPharm stuff. That's when I was like, this is getting out of hand. I need more time, but I need to leave one of those jobs. Which one is it? It was very difficult for me to make that decision.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there was a few things. One, I was supposed to do 15 hours a week for the university. I would always go over. I'm doing more time and there's no pay for that overtime.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
I was finishing on time at the hospital, which is quite strange, but maybe that's because I wasn't ward based.
Yeah.
So I was finishing on time, and I wouldn't take work home with me from the hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
But I would take work home with me for the university, because people would say to me, well, why don't you stick to those 15 hours no matter what? If I'm marking papers, or if I'm going to be teaching something on Monday,
Yeah, you can't do a half job of it.
I have to finish the work.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, it's taking up more of my time, and that time's not being accounted for.
Yeah.
And then everything about Microfarm is educational anyway. If I leave practice and I stay with an educational role at the university, an educational role with Microfarm, then where's my practice? Yeah.
Which is exactly why I thought you'd left any kind of practice and you were doing full-time Microfarm.
Yeah.
And I thought that's brave, but also where do you get your clinical time? But obviously
Yeah,
now
exactly.
you're saying you still get that clinical time.
I still get that clinical time. In an ideal world, I'd like to work full-time on Microfarm. The risk that I pose is I move into a completely managerial role where
Right.
I'm not the person teaching, and I love teaching. And it sort of feels like that now, because there's so much managerial stuff to do with Microfarm.
Yeah.
That it's
I didn't realise.
the only pockets of teaching I get are the specialties I teach. The only way to stay up to date with that is to stay in practice.
Yes, and your practice, like you said, is in ILD.
Yeah.
Which leads me on to the next question, which I have permission to share this, but you have type 1 diabetes.
Yes.
I was just wondering why you didn't just easily go into a diabetes specialism, because if I had diabetes, which I had gestational diabetes, which is very different, but I now love to talk to patients about that in GP practice, because it's not easy, but I've been through it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, why go for something completely different, which you have to learn everything over from scratch again, when you already know so much about diabetes? And my question is, why ILD?
One, I do still teach diabetes. So I teach diabetes on the platform, and I also taught diabetes in my university role. I have that part to me, and I utilize that. Two, I would love to do it in practice, but the roles that I came across, particularly, and when I started working, GP roles, pharmacist roles in GP were not a thing. So I'm showing how old I am.
How old are you?
Yeah,
Sorry.
31.
Okay,
So,
I'm the same as me, I'm 30. Yeah.
So
at
it
the
was
time.
not a thing when
Yeah.
we first started. So it was either hospital or community.
That's true. That's 100% true.
And so then that's when I was thinking, okay, so it's either hospital or community. I want to do hospital, and then I was looking at the hospital roles for the endocrinology specialist roles in hospital, and what's their role in diabetes. And the majority of the role was updating policies. Sometimes there was doing ward rounds for seeing that people are on the right amount of insulin whilst they're inpatients in hospital. And there's loads of studies about this. I'm not picking out my hospital, but inpatient diabetes management is generally terrible. Like,
Yeah, that's why there's so many incidents regarding insulin, right? Yeah.
You will see experiences when you're working in hospital where it's like a patient's blood sugar level is 15, you're like, oh, that's good. And you're like, no, that's not good.
Yeah.
But to keep it any lower, you risk the hypos. Like, there's so much going on there that the impact that you're having on your day-to-day role, I felt like that satisfaction wouldn't be there. And I would love to have these one-to-one interactions with managing patients with diabetes, or seeing them in an outpatient clinic. But at the time, there was no roles like that.
Right. Okay. I see.
And I was very junior, so I know people are going to probably watch this and say, "Well, you create it then." Well, I was only 1 year in practice, or 2 years, so I took the trajectory of the best roles that I saw in front of me, and
at the time,
and the roles that I really was passionate about.
Yeah.
It never led to diabetes, and even to this day, maybe that role exists in primary care.
I was about to say, I feel like it exists now, but it didn't then.
It didn't then.
Yeah.
But I still don't see it exist in my outpatient clinic. So every time I go to my outpatient clinics, I'm never seen by a pharmacist. So I think there has to be a culture change of what pharmacists can do in secondary care outpatient clinics rather than solely primary care.
Right.
I know people are watching this and saying, well, create it now, but as in...
I'm sorry guys, he's already created Microfarm now, it's too late.
It's like I don't know where to spend my energy. And there's so much more content I just want to create about diabetes and what it's like to live with diabetes, where it's relatable to healthcare professionals and those that follow me, and also to diabetics. That's my plan moving forward with the YouTube channel.
Since you started Microfarm and content creation, what have you found the most difficult, and what have you loved the most about it?
Time management. And the reason why I say that is there's so many different aspects. I started as a content creator, and then I created a business from this, and then I had to set up a limited company associated with this, and everything that comes to the accounting side of things, everything that comes to employing people to teach on the platform.
Yeah.
So there's a team of 16 people that teach on the platform.
I was really surprised, guys. Like, I was given access by Yazir to actually just go on Microfarm and see it for myself. And I was blown away. I knew that you did good teaching, but the ease of using the website, how colourful it was, I'm all about the colour, how bold it was, how many people you have allowed to also teach on there.
I thought maybe this would be like a side hustle
Yeah.
to content creation,
Yeah.
but it's become like a bit of a beast that I have to manage. Managing all the deadlines with people who want to produce content.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's so important for me to create deadlines is because I want people, particularly when you've got users on the platform,
Yeah.
you want to actively be updating the content as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So it's relevant for people that are
Yeah.
taking the assessment. Managing all of that, then having to review all of that content and put it on the website. In terms of the entire design of the website, I do have people in the team that help with that,
Yeah.
the building of the website. But at the same time, I had to guide that entire process to make it look like it does today.
Yeah.
There will be minor tweaks that I'm doing every day. Just managing all of that and then being a content creator and then working in practice and then working as a lecturer was just impossible.
That actually sounds like a lot when you actually think about it, because obviously I just see the product,
Yeah.
you know, and I think, oh, this is great, but then actually it must have taken so much energy and time.
Just to get it to where it is today, it's taken 2.5 years. I'm very happy with how it is now.
Yeah.
But what I love the most about what I'm doing is experiences that I've had where people will share either how useful the platform is. So I've had some lovely testimonials about how easy I've made that process
Yeah.
in the training year.
Yeah.
And that's really nice to see. People have watched my videos and felt more confident about their decision to go into pharmacy. People have watched my videos and then said, I felt more proud to be a pharmacist, which is like, that's a whole other chapter in itself. People get sick of us saying this. I've actually had people comment to say, oh, you just keep on just the same crap about like
What is it? What is it?
the same crap about pharmacists not being appreciated.
Oh,
like let it
okay,
go
okay.
now.
Right, right.
I'm not going to let it go because it
Until we get there,
I
until we get to
yeah.
the point, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think it is improving, but it's quite a slower improvement.
Yeah.
In general, what do you think is the best thing about being a pharmacist, and what's your least favourite thing about being a pharmacist?
If you're considering the entire patient journey, in many cases it leads to patients being prescribed medication or seeing whether or not a medication is appropriate as well.
Yes.
This is healthcare as a whole. We're very quick to prescribe people medication, but not very quick to de-prescribe when
Yes.
it's no longer relevant.
Yeah.
So seeing whether or not medication is appropriate is quite often in most management plans. To be an expert in that field,
Yeah.
and to have people look to you and say, what do I do with the dose of this patient's medication, or is it appropriate, or what would you recommend, or what does the evidence say about this? To be an expert in that is huge. And I hear this all the time. Other professions get quite terrified about pharmacology and medication, and
Yeah.
we've spent 4 years as an undergraduate
Yeah.
going through this. We've spent 1 year as a foundation training pharmacist, and then all the years of practice alongside that. So being an expert in medication is what I think it's extremely rewarding. There's scope for us to develop our role, as you see with Pharmacy First scheme, as you see with pharmacists becoming prescribers. We can also develop the skills that are related to diagnosis.
It's expanding, basically.
Expanding and
Yeah.
looking at managing patients holistically,
Yeah.
beyond just the medication. Most multidisciplinary teams would agree that without a pharmacist, their team is not whole.
Anything you would say is not so good?
Yeah.
Being called pharmacy?
You can say worse. Let's say call it worse. What's
Okay,
the
fine.
worst
What's
thing?
the worst thing about being a
Yeah,
pharmacist?
so this is it's very hard to convey this, but let me try to do it justice. When people say, what do you do as a profession, and you say, I'm a pharmacist, and you say this to maybe another healthcare professional or a family member or something, there's a deep misunderstanding about the term pharmacist. And sometimes, because there's pharmacists on different parts of the journey or what they're
Yeah.
doing in practice,
Yeah.
the fact that I'm working as a specialist pharmacist that prescribes, it's very hard to convey that. And then to say I'm a prescribing pharmacist, you just sound like a bit of a
I
like
get
you
you.
just want to make that point. So what I'm trying to say is, with public perception,
Yes.
there's always this invisible ceiling to how much you can do. When I started making content about how I manage patients in clinic, I had so many hate comments from members of the public, and these are some of the hate comments
Really?
this one's gonna drive you up the wall. There's a lot of comments I've had are patients seeing pharmacists in clinic, you would not want to see ground staff flying your plane.
Ooh, Ooh, that one cuts deep. That one cuts deep. That one hurts.
And the reason why that statement's so problematic is essentially the person's trying to say the person flying your plane has no expertise at all. And that's completely disrespectful to the fact that we've actually spent at least 5 years learning about medication.
Yeah.
And you're going to be on medication. A lot of these clinics are medication review clinics or medication optimization clinics or initiation of your medication clinics. So we're the experts when it comes to the medication.
Yeah.
It just created this fierce battle in the comment section.
Yeah.
There is an invisible ceiling to how much you can do from other healthcare professionals and from the public. There's a certain perception of pharmacists, a negative perception of pharmacists, that it's like an undertone. Like when people are speaking to you, like they say, you guys are so useful, but it's like, stay in your lane.
Yes. Yeah, no, that is you actually have managed to point towards just the complexity of our roles, actually, because I think exactly the same thing and I feel exactly the same way, but I just don't know how to say it. And it's really hard to describe that like undercurrent of what people think a pharmacist should be doing and what we are doing.
Yes.
And what we are capable of doing. You were saying actually that it takes us 4 years to study pharmacy. It takes a year of being in practice, and then you do your pre-reg exam. So what would you say to people who, for example, if I wasn't a pharmacist and my daughter was a pharmacist and she's like, I need some money to get onto this course called MicroPharm, I would think, well, can you not just study yourself? We've put all of this money into your education. What do you think is special? And sell me your platform.
First of all, I'm going to do a terrible job of selling my platform. And I'm going to start the first sentence with, you can absolutely pass the exam without my course.
Oh my god, I'm actually really surprised to hear that. I was not expecting that from him.
You can absolutely pass the exam without my course. You can absolutely do the entire thing without my course. You don't need my course to pass the exam. The main purpose of me creating the course was to make that process as easy as possible. Essentially, you look at the framework, and the framework can be quite vague.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you're like, okay, so you have to learn the BNF. Try reading the BNF as a book.
Oh my gosh.
Like
that was tough. And I tried to go through every page, and when I would do the exam questions, wouldn't pass any of them. I didn't know what to focus on. If I could go back now and I saw MicroPharm, guaranteed I would pay for that and be on that course. But I think it was really hard to navigate at the time.
Yeah, so the main purpose of it is to make that process as easy as possible. One thing that I did, which is quite different to a lot of platforms that are out there, is I would never have someone teach a particular therapeutic area unless they're absolutely competent to teach that therapeutic area. Quite often it would be easier for me to make the entire course myself, because that means I don't have to pay anyone. But I would not do cardiology justice. I would not do the gastrointestinal tract justice when it comes to teaching those topics. I could probably do a surface level session, but I need an expert in that. And for example, I teach infectious diseases and microbiology, so I teach the infection chapter. I've got 4 years of experience as an infectious disease pharmacist, an antimicrobial pharmacist. So I can do that therapeutic area justice unlike other educators. And I've looked at the infection chapter being covered by other platforms essentially, or other educators. I would say it's very surface level.
Right.
And that's where I can objectively look at that and say, this is why we need experts to teach experts.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so that one thing I did that's quite different is there's 16 people on the course, teaching on the course. And that's growing. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have one of the biggest banks when it comes to question banks.
Which, by the way, I often get wrong. So let's not talk about that. I'm like, is it A, B, C, D on your stories? And then I'm like, okay, then hopefully you didn't see that one.
Just the clinical questions. Clinical and calculation questions, we have 800 questions on the platform. So we start our prices at £299 a year. You get access to 400 videos related to either calculations or your therapeutic areas, and you also get 800 questions. With the Pro Plus membership, you get all of that, and you get 18 study guides. So these are your.
I've seen a couple of those study guides.
So these are your notes written out for you.
Yeah.
So this is what we're trying to do, is trying to make sure you're spending more time utilizing study methods like active recall, distance learning and spaced repetition, rather than spending more time making notes. Studies say that that's the least effective way for you to learn a topic.
I think that's what pretty much I was doing back in the day.
And then the beauty of the Pro Plus membership is if you complete the entire course and you go through all the practice questions and answer them correctly at least once, and you do not pass that assessment, you get your money back.
I think that's amazing. What I want to say to you guys is I hope you enjoyed this interview with MicroPharm. What you can do is what I did, which is sign up to MicroPharm. You can get 1 full day of the entire access on the Pro Plus membership.
So the one thing that I didn't include was all the notes, because my fear was if someone has 1 day worth of access, all the notes will be gone.
No, absolutely.
So that's the first thing. And everyone who's watching this video, if you want to join the Pro Plus or Pro Plus Mentor membership, you get £10 off with a special code that I've added for you that you'll add in the description box below. If you don't want full membership, we also have 3-month access or 12-month access to our question bank alone, which is a fraction of the price, or just the calculation videos. So you can watch all the calculation videos and go through the calculation questions for a fraction of the price. Yeah.
So yeah, use my code and get £10 off one of your memberships. But honestly, with me and my channel, and it's a very small channel, small community, is I will not promote something that I don't believe in. I just can't do it. I can't do it. So I had to see what you were offering before I was happy to actually promote this. I wanted to interview you the same, but I wouldn't be happy to promote your educational platform unless I believed in it. And I have seen those study guides. 100%, if you are a trainee pharmacist, or not even trainee, if you feel like as a pharmacist you just need that extra bit of knowledge, then definitely sign up for MicroPharm. If you don't want to use my code, that's cool, just go and sign up for MicroPharm. So yeah, if you've got any questions for MicroPharm, make sure that you check all the links down below, and I'll link all of your social media channels. See you in the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.